If Shohei Ohtani had 22 homers plus a 4.10 ERA in 27 starts, that would qualify as one of the most remarkable seasons ever. But Ohtani went into Saturday with 34 homers and a 2.35 ERA. He had a 1.254 OPS as a hitter with runners in scoring position, the best in the majors, and a .482 OPS against as a pitcher, third best among the 116 pitchers who had at least 100 plate appearances with runners in scoring position. Ohtani's slash line overall as a hitter was .276, .359, .529, with those 34 homers, 94 RBIs and 88 runs scored. So he essentially has been the equivalent of Atlanta's best hitter, Austin Riley, .279, .349, .534 with 38 homers, 93 RBIs and 88 runs. Meanwhile, Ohtani had 5.9 wins above replacement, Baseball Reference, as a pitcher, 5th best in the majors. The guy with the second best strikeout percentage among qualified pitchers, at 33.1, also has 2 fewer triples, 6, as a hitter than the entire Yankees team. And it should be cited that Ohtani qualifies for both the batting and ERA titles. He needs 1 inning to assure qualifying for the season. It still feels impossible that one person can do that. It feels even more impossible, having experienced what I think is the greatest individual season in baseball history, to write this sentence. I don't think he is the most valuable player. He is the most remarkable, and in any other year, pretty much, he would be the most valuable. Aaron Judge runs the bases in Toronto after hitting his 61st home run of the season. There were only 2 avenues to keep him from going back-to-back as AL MVP. That nothing he did, through no fault of his own, came in the context of helping a team win. Shame on the Angels once again. Thus, none of it was done under the duress of a playoff chase. And there was someone else in his league who also had an immortal season and did so carrying his team to first place. I just don't know how you can be more valuable than Aaron Judge was for the Yankees. Going into the weekend, he was tied for the most ever by a player with no ties to illegal performance enhancers. But he had roughly 20-ish more homers than anyone else in the majors, think Secretariat at the Belmont. He was as responsible as any player for his team winning that I have ever seen. Judge's ability to play center field capably improved the entire team by getting Aaron Hicks out of the daily lineup and giving manager Aaron Boone flexibility to play a better overall team regularly. Shohei Ohtani has 34 home runs and 2.35 ERA heading into Saturday for the Angels. Judge hit in the clutch, 1.251 OPS with runners in scoring position and 4 walk-off hits. When his surroundings were, well, Angel IC in the second half due to injury or diminished performance all around him. Judge was the singular reason the Yankees won enough not to blow the entirety of a 15.5-game division lead. He was the team first leader when it all could have been about him. He was durable, 6th in the AL in games played. He was no stadium creation. The homer at Rogers Center that tied Jose Ramirez AL record of 61 homers was his 31st on the road. To the math, that is 30 at home. Judge was 16 for 19 in steal attempts, and he wasn't padding. 14 of the thefts came in games in which the score was within 2 runs one way or the other, and 10 came with the Yankees leading or trailing by a run or with the score tied. And I will give Judge points for this. He did it all after turning down a $213.5 million extension before his free agent walk year. He did not cave to the pressure, and he elevated the second-best team in the AL. The best, the Astros, had a 32-game lead on the Angels in the AL-West. Again, no fault of Ohtani, but the reality he played within. Imagine having the year Ohtani hadn't yet. When asked what you remember about 2022, his name will not be the first evoked. And it is not an easy ballot even beyond that. Andres Gimenez has a higher WAR than Cleveland teammate Jose Ramirez, but Ramirez actually has more intentional walks than Judge, which is the league's way of saying who it fears most on the team. Plus, Ramirez, like Gimenez, is a superb all-around player while being the veteran presence on the division-winning youngest team in the majors. Yordan Alvarez emerges for a top 5 nod from many strong candidates for the AL-best Astros. I am going to split the baby. I believe Seattle's Julio Rodriguez had the better overall season, Rookie of the Year, but that Baltimore's Adley Rutschman had the greater impact for his team, because there is no rarer commodity in the sport than the elite two-way catcher. Throw in leadership skills on top of that. Yasmani Grandal, White Sox. There were so many disappointing performances on the league's most disappointing team, none more so than Grandal, whose on-base prowess dimmed and whose power vanished. He still has one season to go on a 4-year, $73 million pact. Might this have been Joey Gallo if he had not been traded from the Yankees to the NL Dodgers? Spencer Torkelson, Tiger. Partnerships were huge in the NL this year. Paul Goldschmidt had Nolan Arenado with the Cardinals. Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor had each other. And still, for sheer value on how the Mets won, is it possible Edwin Diaz was the team MVP? Mookie Betts, Trey Turner and Freddie Freeman formed the best top 1, 2, 3 of any lineup in the majors for the Dodgers. Who was Robin to Machado's Batman? Fernando Tatis Jr. never played in 2022, first due to a wrist injury, then because of a PED-related suspension. Juan Soto was not the force the Padres envisioned after essentially emptying their farm system to acquire him at the deadline from Washington. By the way, Soto and Tatis finished second and third in the NL MVP voting last year. Yet, the Fangraphs version of WAR had Machado, 7.1. Basically tied with Arenado and Goldschmidt, 7.2, who had each other for protection. Machado had 14 more homers than anyone else on his team. He was hitting .319 with a 1.005 ops with men in scoring position. He is a tick down from Arenado, but Machado is nevertheless a terrific third baseman. Like Judge, Machado has carried a team that would have been offensively challenged without him. His value as a solo act to his team exceeds the partnerships. When you run a low payroll team, you cannot be as wrong as Miami was in giving Garcia a 4-year, $53 million pact plus 3 years at $36 million for Jorge Soler. While Derek Jeter was in charge, they also considered Nick Castellanos, who went to the Phillies for 5 years at $100 million. Perhaps the winner should have been Robinson Cano. Remember, in what feels like 10 years ago, when Buck Showalter was being asked how he would find at-bats this season for Cano. Ultimately, Cano spread around his poor farewell results to 3 NL teams, also the Padres and Braves. Justin Verlander leads the majors with a 1.80 ERA. This a competition among very good candidates who are short of perfect. Verlander had a lead before a calf injury cost him 3 weeks in the second half. Still, his combination of enough bulk with dominance gives him an edge. Though I really looked at Toronto's Alek Manoah, who never authored a start of fewer than 5 innings, never had a complete dud start and did terrific work against the best teams, 2.37 ERA in 16 starts versus clubs with winning records. Who you pitch against matters. Cleveland ace Shane Bieber had thrown 101 2/3 of his AL-high 195 innings against the 4 other dregs in the AL Central, none above .500, and pitched to a 2.30 ERA. Dylan Cease made 9 starts against the Tigers, Royals and Twins and had a 0.81 ERA in those games. Ohtani, conversely, made 11 starts versus opponents in the top 10 in average runs per game and had a 2.73 ERA and .210 batting average against Bieber. Guardians, Framber Valdez, Astros. Enter your email address. Please provide a valid email address.